Hi, hello Lana. So welcome to Lana's Coach. We are going to look at how to enter data for the very first time within our Spss software. So I'll be using the IBM version 26, that is Spss. As you know, Spss stands for Software Package for Social Science. So if you want to analyze your data, I think this is one of the best software that you can always use. Right. So if you have a higher version, like for example, a version 20 and above, that is just fantastic for this particular exercise. Otherwise, if you have version 26, this is the one that I'm actually using. So once you click or open your Spss software, you will be presented by this particular view. I've captured and in details the various views that you can always use in my previous video, so you can check. Now, we have two views or windows here, the data view and variable view. So these are the two common views that you'll always interact with. Now, for the variable view, this is where you configure or you set your variables, right? So if you want to have some kind of descriptive variables for your data, this is where you set them. So the common term is normally we talk about coding of variables, right? And of course, the data view, this is where now you can be able to see your various cases and your variables, and this is where you can always analyze your data. So maybe let's take a quick look at the main difference between variable view and data view. So as I mentioned, variable view allows you to enter some parameters for your variables, like you code your variables for the very first time. So once you code them, you can always analyze them within the data view. So you can see they kind of have some similar interface. Now, maybe one major difference is that where the columns here will represent the parameters for the variables. Like we are going to see how to set these parameters, right? And these are just going to be the number of cases, right? So here, these ones are going to represent the number of variables, that you can always create within the variable view. But when you come to the data view, they kind of change. As you can see now, the column represents the variables, and the rows will represent the cases. So let's assume that you want to capture some details about maybe our students. So to capture the first variable, maybe we can talk about the name of the student, right? So you can type the name. Then under the type field, this one allows you to select the variable type. Like for the name, you will need a string. You'll need a string type or data type for that matter. So you have to select the string. Then for the characters is normally associated with the width here. So if you make the change here right now, automatically it's going to change here. Now, this is the maximum length or width of the character that you want. So if the name is going to accommodate more than 30 characters, you can specify maybe 40 characters. But let's just specify 20 in our case, right? So you can say automatically it has changed to 20. We don't need decimals. Sorry, we don't need decimals for name. Label. Now, label is a very important field that allows you to describe your variable. Like for example, maybe after 2 or 5 years, it will be hard to understand what actually your variable means. So in our case here, we can say, all right, as you can see, I've already added 3 more variables. That is the course, age, and date of admission. So very quickly, maybe I can proceed and explain what this other parameter means. Now, as I had mentioned, so the label here allows you to describe the name of your variable in details. As you can see, I've described the name as student full name, and you can see also the course, student course, and so on. You can see, so use the label parameter to actually describe more about the name of the variable, so that in future at least you can understand what the name of those particular variable means. For instance, the DOA, it's very hard to understand what it is, but through my description within the label, I can be able to tell it meant date of admission. Now, coming to the values, values here is where you it defines the meaning of values used to code variables, right? Like for example, you can say here within the course I've used the values. Let me just click on that. So you can say I've added some values to describe some given categorical variables. Like here, 1, you can use the value 1 to represent certificate course, 2 to represent the diploma course, 3 to do, and so on. Yeah, so you can add as many values and label them accordingly, right? So it's a very convenient way of using both numeric and string values at the same time. Now, when you talk about missing, the missing parameter here defines values for those maybe people who didn't respond, or missing values. Now, the good thing is that it's not very essential, because Spss is going to automatically recognize any blank cells that doesn't have content and give it maybe and represent it as a missing value. So there's no problem even if you don't select anything. When you come to columns, columns actually determines the physical size of the said column. Yeah, so if you want it to be a bit smaller, you can reduce the size. If you want it to be larger, you can still do the same. Now, for the alignment, as you can say, it allows you to maybe left align your content, center align, yeah, or right align. So it's your choice, the best option. Now, the measure is a very, very important parameter when you're coding your variables, in that it allows you to create some level of measurements to each of your variables. Yeah, normally the default is scale. Yeah, you can always use the scale. Scale is best for the continuous variables, such as when you want to analyze height, weight. Yeah, like for example, you can say I've used scale for the age because it has numeric variable. Of course, you can use the ordinal when you want to represent variables that actually have some kind of ranking or ranks, right? For the nominal, which is actually the most widely used, this one is used to represent the categorical variables, right? So if you have some group of variables, or you want to analyze some group of data sets, you can always use nominal. And of course, the default role is always the input, so that you can be able to key in those particular variables. Now, talking about keying in, we need now to change to the data view. After you have coded your variables accordingly, you can now move on and change your view to data view. So remember, variable view is for coding your variable. And also take note that the columns here represent the various parameters that you can associate with your with your variables, whereas this particular the rows here represent the actual variables. But again, if you go to the data view, you'll now have a different look, in that the column here now represent the the variables themselves, the name of the variables that we captured, and the rows now will represent the cases. So I've also populated this particular cases with some kind of information. So it depends with the respondents and actually the amount of maybe data that you want to key in, right? So it kind of looks like an Excel worksheet, right? Of course, I think that is more that you can learn or understand about how to create our data set from scratch. Now, we have other tools that you can always use. I'll show you how to use them in our subsequent videos. Like for example, I mentioned the courses, yeah, whereby you had to use the values. Yeah, so if you look at this, if you click on the value label or value labels, you can see you can toggle in between that. Yeah, so that's how values work. right? So maybe you can go ahead and use the various menus. Like for example, you can use the analyze. You're going to see how to use this kind of tools. Like you can use the frequencies. We can try to understand how many students we have. Yeah, you click on that. So you'll be presented with another view, that is the output view. So it shows you actually your output in terms of tables. You can use the charts and so on. So for this one, based on the frequency, you can say we have a total of three students and so on. So we're going to further analyze our data in our subsequent video. So should you have any suggestion or question, I kindly just comment below. I'll take note of that, and also don't fail to subscribe. So let's meet on our next video.